Today we're doing another video in the series of 5 questions. We have Kirk Sauers joining us today. He is a music minister at Faith Presbyterian just across town in Birmingham. He's also a singer, songwriter, and co-founder with the Wooddrake Sessions. You can find their music anywhere that you stream, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Kirk, thanks so much for being here, man.
It's a joy to be here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'll just get right to it. My first question for you today is, was there a certain point in time when you knew that you wanted to be a worship leader, or is it something you kind of realized gradually? How did that all play out?
Yeah, being a worship leader has just sort of been a slow unfolding thing and presence in my life. So I started doing, I picked up guitar when I was like 12, 13, played at church, began to be on the music team every now and then at church, and then got into high school, would do retreats. I would play at like FCA meetings in the morning in high school. Graduated college, and actually worked in college ministry for about 5 years. But during that time, the church I was at offered me a part-time role to actually be a worship leader. And so I did it kind of part-time for a long time, and then just and actually during that time I remember telling myself, like, I don't think I'll do this full-time. But just the Lord really, one, he guided me otherwise, but he also really changed my heart in the process to really begin to see one, my joy in it, but also just the value of what I felt like the role of a worship leader is. And then really it wasn't until like my late 30s until I was offered a full-time job to do it. So up until that point, it was just sort of this, between high school, like you could almost say like a 20-year process of just slowly unfolding into kind of what I'm doing now fulltime. So,
yeah. Funny how man plans the way he will go, but the Lord directs his steps.
100%.
Plan B almost always seems to be what you end up doing.
That's right. Yeah.
So with you've worked with various teams. Are there any things that tend to be like common denominators when you're trying to get a team ready to lead a song, whether it be like establishing the right groove or helping guitar players understand why one strum pattern doesn't fit but another one does? Any common themes that you've seen?
I would say so in the world of worship leading, you're always, the team is always sort of rotating, and in many ways it's never the same mix of people all at the same time. Sometimes that's the case, but a lot of times it's just like you got a different drummer and a different piano player, and that can just change kind of all the time. It's just sort of evolves, at least in my experience. But I would say the one thing with that is just the idea of just overplaying. I think with whether your instrument is piano, guitar, or even if your instrument is your voice, and over singing. And what I mean by that is I just always try to encourage sort of almost a less is more approach. I think that if you can learn when not to play and when to play, that's huge. Versus so for an example, like the electric guitar or even the piano, just the type of presence that you have in the song is likely not going to be the same thing all the way through in terms of like how loud it is or what you're playing, the type of playing you're doing. There's times where there's like you peek through with more presence, and there's times when you need to sit back and be behind everything. I think the same can be true with like harmonies and stuff like that with vocalists. You don't always need a harmony from start to finish. Sometimes you need some give and take. Maybe you need to go back into melody for a moment and then jump into harmony. But just the idea of overplaying, I think is always a theme, and I think, and especially when you just got constant movement among volunteers, sometimes it can be really hard to build chemistry. And so to have a less is more approach is I've found is really a valuable posture to have coming into the to rehearsals. So.
Yeah, I've thought about that over the years. And it's like when you're taking music lessons and you're, getting old enough to where you're competent enough to play, you almost get the sense that if you're not playing in certain sections, it might look like you don't know what to do or you don't know how to play that chord. And so, at least in myself, when I was younger, I would overplay just so that the music minister would know that I was competent, right? But then after a while, if you've heard a band doing that, it's kind of like somebody gives you a steak dinner with the side of steak and then a steak for dessert. It's like your ears and your brain get so full of sound that there's no break.
And I try to affirm, if maybe the example is an electric guitar. If an electric guitar is just doing something very subtle, that actually could be extremely valuable to the feel of the song.
Right.
And so I try to affirm that even if it's like, if somebody might be feeling like, why am I here? Does this really matter? Yes, a lot of times it does. Like your very small presence is actually adding a whole lot versus you can have a big presence and it can actually be to the detriment of the song.
Right.
So.
Right. Man, it's amazing what you just learn over, with time and experience. Sometimes there's just no substitute for that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Do you have a routine on Sunday mornings that tends to work for you in terms of, number one, just waking up, getting your body moving?
That's the first thing I do.
Right.
Every day.
Maybe, spiritual preparation, music preparation, or even if you need to stretch. Is there something you tend to do continually every week?
Yeah. In terms of coming into, on my way to church or getting ready for church, I have really one thing I always do. There's a specific road that whenever I turn on that road, it's sort of, I just have made that a habit to say, this is a moment where I begin to pray. And up to that point, sometimes I'm not fully awake. And maybe the coffee just finally kicked in. But when I turn on Valleydale Road, that's always my moment. I just always pray. I pray two things. I just pray that the Spirit would lead. And so I pray for the Holy Spirit over what we do, over the whole service, our music, just the whole thing. And then and I just pray that when I think about Sunday, and especially Sunday in the South, there's this, in one sense, the rhythm and routine is great. And in another sense, I just always pray that God would sort of break through the lull of what maybe just kind of going through the rhythm, that whole idea. And I just pray that God would break through that and help us to really encounter Him and His presence. So those are usually two things I pray. Pray for the Spirit's power. Pray that we would encounter His presence on another Sunday here that we're coming into. So.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have any author or musician or anyone that you can look at and say, this person or this resource has been the biggest influence or major contributor to how I lead worship, why I love it, etc.?
Yeah, there's a lot. Am I allowed to say a few?
Sure.
So I went to church with, and I sat under Ray Ortland's preaching for a few years, and his welcome into worship was always so meaningful to me, and I think even through the years really shaped how I think and how I come into worship and even want to lead worship. He would always, I should have it memorized, but it's just basically he gives us the welcome of Jesus. It's to those who are weary and need rest, to those who mourn and long for comfort, to those who fail and desire strength, to those who sin and need a Savior. Jesus opens, the church opens wider doors with the welcome of Jesus. And I just think, as I get older, I just realize this more and more, but that's me in some capacity every single week. I'm coming in and I just really need grace, and I need to be, I need to feel and hear the welcome of Jesus again, and I need to know that I'm falling into grace today. And so I just feel like that whole posture has really been super influential on me in the way that I approach just the areas that I lead in worship. I think maybe another meaningful book I read a few years back was by James Smith. He wrote a book called "You Are What You Love," but it's basically just it was meaningful to me in a Presbyterian, coming from a Presbyterian context where good theology and the way we think about God is very valued and important, and of course it is important. But his kind of basically what the book is about is we're more than thinking things. We're more than heads on a stick, and really at a deeper level, we're people of desire and longing and loves. And so every week, Monday through Saturday, in a sense, we're walking through liturgies, the liturgies of this world. You're walking through a mall. A mall will have a liturgy for you, and so forth. There's all kinds of, you go down the highway, there'll be a liturgy of these are the things you should love and delight in. Yeah. And so Sunday is this moment of recalibration where God is reshaping, recalibrating our hearts, reforming the things that we should love, and ultimately Him. And so just that whole space of desire, longing, loves, and just the way that as one who is a musician, music just has such an ability to reach those things, the things of the places of our longing and desire, and so I feel a great. That's something to steward. Is like, man, we're able to have. We're in the space of desire with music, but we're also able to help shape how we think about God. But music can also help us feel that, and love that, and delight in that, and who He is. So, and Zach Hicks, worship pastor.
Yes,
such a great book.
Another local Birmingham guy.
Just thinking about the role of a worship leader from a pastoral lens is really great. So.
And I think one thing to glean from that is how important it is for a worship leader to be reading and to be studying. I'm sure you've butted up against this as well, in that, there's only so many songs that you're going to play and lead in worship over your lifetime. And if you're looking to get some kind of musical energy or inspiration from that every single week in and week out, that's a failing plan. What really, I think, continues to feed that desire and that love of leading God's people often feels the same songs every week or every year is how you are growing behind all that stuff and what's really feeding your philosophy of it. And that's what I hear you saying as well. All right, so the last question I want to ask is a little bit more lighthearted. I'm limited. You're limited. We are going to make mistakes as worship leaders from time to time. My worship team likes to needle me about never remembering to tell them what the postlude is going to be, and I always have to kind of mouth it across the stage. Do you have anything like that on your team where your volunteers love to give you a hard time because Kirk always tends to do this, or we always end up having to, whatever it is?
Yes, there's lots of those. I always joke, it's like I should keep a log and ultimately write a book. It would be a whole new language of music descriptions. Usually it's directed at the drummer, like what I want the drummer to do, and I usually communicate in grunts and or sounds. There's no words involved. It's usually it's usually something very vague, like, just be a little more vibey, or something like that. And they're like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So they give me a hard time about how as we're trying to shape the song and make it feel its best, Sometimes my description of how that should look is comical.
So you have Kirkisms. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So, but I'm convinced many other worship leaders out there have have those things. So,
yeah.
How do you say what a cymbal is supposed to do? It's like make it shimmer a little more, or it's like I don't know, but yeah, I get poked fun at for my description of
Yes. So if there's anyone out there that wants to help worship leaders learn how to better describe what they intend, we would greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, Kirk, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
This has been 5 Questions with Kirk Sauers, and thanks so much for watching. If you found this content helpful, I invite you to visit my site, rickbarnesmusic.com, where you can find more video tutorials and a lot of sheet music. Thanks for watching.